Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. It's that time of month again where I do the colour analysis readings for every birthday month of the year, and this time we'll be looking at what will happen in the month of May 2025. I've been asked why I don't do zodiac signs for these readings, and there's a very specific reason for that. The month of our birth is the one that occurs on all official documents about our lives, and as such, it has a subliminal effect upon us. So the birth month is actually more important on a subliminal level than our zodiac signs. We all have birth months. We don't necessarily follow zodiacs. Similarly, colour is also something that works on a subliminal level. We all can see colours, we can all recognise them, and as such, they have an effect upon our lives that works at an unconscious level. So by pairing the subliminal text of our birth month with the unconscious language of colour, I hope to bring something a little different to you in terms of a colour reading that analyses what could be and what might be. This is a general reading, of course, and if it doesn't resonate with you immediately, maybe you'd like to come back to it later. But for now, just settle back and enjoy. So let's now examine the colour reading for people born in January for this upcoming month of May. As usual, I have pre-shuffled the cards. And now, let's just have a look at what they offer for you. In the past, we have orange on cyan. That's the energy you bring with you into the month of May. At the height of May, we have blue on red. And the energy that you take with you out of May is blue on orange. And the energy that is underlying all of this is orange on purple. Now, the first thing we notice is that there are two colours that appear multiple times in this reading. We have orange, which appears in the top as the incoming energy, in the bottom as the outgoing energy, and in the top again as the underlying energy. Then we have blue, which appears in the top of the central energy throughout the month, and again as the energy that leaves the month. Let's examine what these mean. When we have orange in the top of a reading or of a colour grouping, top always refers to the things that you are actually doing in the real world. And in this instance, orange is about the ability to get out there amongst it, to deal with the dramas, the crises, but also with the social settings in which you are engaged. Underneath, coming into the month of May, however, you have cyan. Now, cyan and orange are almost opposites in the colour wheel. The actual opposites are over here, that is blue and orange. These are the true opposites, but cyan is very closely aligned with blue, so it has a similar sort of feeling about it. What it does, however, means that what you've come into May with in terms of colour is a lot of peace, quiet, stagnation, but also the need for things to settle down, because everything that happens in the internal world is a need, a requirement, a motivation. So in order for things to settle down, you have in the real world needed to get out there and do something fairly dramatic, in fact, in order to obtain the sort of peace and quiet that you want internally. You'd be happy to have a little bit of stagnation in your life, provided that you didn't have to go too far out in creating the drama that is necessary for you to be able to establish that peace and quiet. But as we move further into the month, we find that that peace and quiet reverses itself entirely. Cyan and red are optical opposites. And while red often is considered to be the opposite of green in a 6-colour analysis, in a 12-colour analysis, it is cyan and red. that oppose one another. So you've swung from an area of needing peace and quiet and just stability within your life to one of the absolute opposite. You now want to get out there and do something dramatic, drastic, perhaps even dangerous, in order to assert yourself so that you can be in charge of what is going on in your life. But what has actually happened in your life is that you have blue. Blue, as I said before, is the opposite of orange. So you've swung from an area of being able to get out there amongst it and do something fairly dramatic in order to obtain what you want, to now either having obtained it and no longer need to find it anymore, or else everything has come crashing down and you are simply in a state where you can no longer move. Blue in the real world is organization. It is all about getting things done because they have to be done. It's about being silent. It's about getting on with the job. It's about doing what is expected. And what is expected does not necessarily gel with the feelings internally. You have lots of energy in the middle of the month. You want to get on and do something dramatic, but in the real world, you're not going anywhere with this at all. So where does that take us in the end of the month? Well, once again, orange appears, but this time, instead of being in the real world where you're out doing something, now you find yourself having taken this energy that of wanting to be in charge of your life, and you have deconstructed it by adding some yellow. That's what orange is, yellow and red. By adding that yellow, that knowledge of the real world, you're now feeling in a state of absolute crisis. You need to change things. You need to assert yourself. You need to be the person who stands up and is counted. You need to overcome the sorts of dramas and crises that are affecting you. The ones that were present up here when you were doing something then became an issue because internally you had all of this energy and nowhere to put it. And now you're in a situation where you need to survive what comes next. And what does come next? Well, it's the same thing as you had in the major part of the month. There is duty, there is obligation, there is a sense of having to be quiet, to get on with the job, don't complain, just do as you are told. It's almost a sense of being shut down. Orange and blue are opposites. We have orange as the driver. I need to stand up for myself. I need to assert myself. Yet blue says you can't do that. You have to be quiet. You have to remain hidden for a while. Now, underlying all of this is orange and purple. Orange in the real world, like the orange that you bring with you into the month, is a color of getting something done, of surviving a problem that you are facing. But purple in the internal world is all about trying to make things better for yourself. Purple itself consists of red and blue together. That's how we make purple. And in the central part of the month, those colors are separated, but when they come together, they require you to survive a fairly drastic change of circumstances. Now, how does this underlying energy affect what's going on in your month? The underlying energy coming into the month, because it has orange in both areas, means that there is an enormous amount of stand up and be counted energy around you. But internally, we have cyan and purple working together. Cyan is the need for peace and quiet and silence and just simply letting things be. Purple is the need for making dramatic changes. So there is a tearing between the need for silence and comfort and the need for dramatic alteration to your circumstances. By the middle of the month, the orange has actually disappeared, and in its place has been blue. Blue and orange are opposites, and as we found over here in the future, it is a struggle between wanting to stand up and be counted and at the same time having a major requirement to be quiet, to just get on with the job and to leave things be the way they are. In the internal world, we have purple and red. Now, purple and red together are really quite a volatile combination. So that the underlying energy here is in fact creating a situation where you are ready to explode with energy and plans to make massive volatile changes. By the end of the month, however, we're back to this dealing with the blue and orange. Blue and orange in the real world are met with orange and purple in the internal world. Orange and purple together are needing change, needing to be able to survive major changes, and here creating those major changes or having a need to have those dramatic changes occur for you. So altogether, this whole month of May for you, for those of you born in January, is going to be a fairly up and down sort of a month. One minute you'll be having to fight for your own survival, and in the next moment you're going to find things are just so quiet that you really don't want to continue in that situation of complete contemplation. The next moment you'll find yourself wanting to overcome that complete stagnation and quiet and duty and responsibility and all of those things associated with not getting anything out of life for you. So how do we deal with all of these? Well, let's look at the colours that are missing. There's no black and there is no white. We do have red. There's no yellow. There's no green. We have blue. There's no brown. We have cyan. There's no pink. There is purple. There is no grey, but there is a lot of orange. So here we have the colours that your month of May are invoking: red, blue, purple, cyan, and orange. And those colours together make up the sort of situation that you're going to find yourself in. On the other hand, the colours that are missing here, just move this up so you can actually see them. We'll put that one there. The colours that are missing here are black, white, yellow, grey, pink, brown, and green. And it's in among these colours that we can find the solutions to the sorts of issues that keep us stuck in this roundabout of massive changes happening and having to survive those changes or deal with them as they come along. So again, as before, think about those 7 colours and determine which of them is the colours that you most like and the colour that you least like. And when you have chosen those two, incorporate them into your life. And by doing so, you will find that the colours that you have chosen to engage with will alter subtly the issues that you'll be dealing with throughout the month. And hopefully you'll end up at the end of the month in a better place than this is tending to suggest right now. And now let's go on with a colour reading for people born in February for the upcoming month of May 2025. As before, these cards have been pre-shuffled, so let's now begin. The energy that you will be bringing with you into the month of May is green on blue. The energy that sits at the height of the month is red on grey, and the energy with which you leave the month is grey on blue. And the underlying energy is yellow on yellow. Let's now examine these. Now, in this reading, there are 3 colours that are repeated. Firstly, we have blue in the internal world, that is the need, the drive, the motivation in the incoming card. And we also have it in that same position in the outgoing card for the month of May. Then we have grey as the internal desires for the major part of the month, which then reverts into the real world, which is the action that is undertaken. And then finally, we have yellow, which occurs both in the top and the bottom of the colour reading. Now, when we have the same colour top and bottom in a colour card, it's always a bit of a warning. It means that you cannot react in any other way than the motivation or the driving force that sends you there. So it's a fairly limited way of behaving. So let's examine what this is all about. Blue in the internal world is a need for quiet, for peace, for organization, for things to become settled in the way that enables you to feel as though you are at peace with the world, but also that everything is in its place and everything is where it should be. Now, as a driving force, this is often a seeker after settlement. I want things to settle down. And in the real world, what is happening here, however, is that green, which is all about new starts, new beginnings, death of the old, and moving on, is that you are trying very hard to find that peace and quiet and settlement by doing something that requires you to either physically go elsewhere or to look at alternative ways of doing things. Green is opportunities. It's all about being able to get out there and grasp what the universe offers you and to take it and run with it so that hopefully you will establish the sort of peace and quiet that you're looking for internally. Now, as you proceed into the month, we find that blue, that need for establishment and quiet and organization, becomes very confusing. Grey in the internal world is always a need for clarity, but you're not finding it anywhere. You have a need to understand things, but you're not being able to understand. You have a need for retreating from stuff, but you can't retreat. So there is a limbo situation here. You need to be able to overcome that feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what is happening to me. And in the real world, the way that you're responding to that is rather dangerous, because red in the external world is always associated with taking major risks. Now, those major risks may simply involve you standing up, being extremely agitated and noisy. Can also be taking the sort of steps that you need to assert yourself as being the dominant person in that situation. But that dominance, that authority that you are taking on, often is a two-edged sword, because what it's doing is leading back to even more uncertainty. Are you sure you want to dominate the things that are affecting you in your internal life? Are you sure you really want to be the ultimate authority when you don't really know what it is that you want to be authoritative about? It's a problem. As you begin to exit the month, that grey, that internal need for some sort of overcoming of confusion, then becomes confusion in the real world. Maybe you have actually overstepped the mark back here. Maybe you did do something that caused people to fight back. Maybe you weren't able to become the dominant force to assert yourself to the extent that you needed to do. Maybe you took a risk that was just one step too far, because now you find yourself instead with grey in the real world, finding yourself even more confused, even more uncertain, even more unlikely to know what you are doing in the real world. And internally, you're back to where you were at the start of the month, and that is looking for peace and quiet. You want things to be organized, to be settled. You tried being the person that demanded that settlement, but it didn't work for you. And so now you're back to where you were at the beginning, except that now there are no longer any opportunities presenting themselves, or certainly not any opportunities that you recognize. You might find them in among the grey, because grey is uncertainty and confusion, but also things that are not recognized for what they are. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to get the sort of energy that you had at the beginning of the month, where things seem to be going your way, because green in the real world is usually associated with some sort of luck. Instead, you now run out of that luck. So how does the underlying energy impinge upon this? Yellow on yellow is the search for and the finding of complete happiness. But in its negative sense, it can also be the wanting to escape from and not being able to escape from anxiety. So happiness, joy, and fear are all embodied within this particular color combination. So let's now add it to what's happening over here. As you come into the month, the yellow and blue become green. So you have here an opportunity to seek out new pastures, and yellow and green enlightens that green, makes it very much more a yellow green, which means that every single opportunity that presents itself is one that you are likely to jump at. That's not always a good position to be working your life from, because when you're jumping at every opportunity, you're not discerning which ones are the good opportunities that will lead you to a pathway that doesn't end up in confusion. But nevertheless, that yellow influence on this particular combination that you enter into May will cause you to want to jump at everything and anything. So how does it influence the middle of the month? Yellow and grey simply darkens the yellow down. It means that instead of joy, you are far more likely to develop a fearfulness internally. Yellow and grey together is more likely to be not just uncertainty about what it is that you are wanting in terms of happiness and joy, but it's also more likely to create an uncertainty about the things that you are fearful about. Red and yellow, on the other hand, create orange. And orange is the color of assertion. It's the color of confidence. It's the color of social skills, but it's also the color of having to stand up and be counted. So will you be able to do that? By the middle of the month, you'll have this drive to overcome your fears by standing up and making sure that people know that you are confident enough to handle those issues. So let's now move on to what will happen in the future. Again, we have yellow and grey. And again, it's a fearfulness that occurs when those two colours are combined. But this time, instead of being the fear that drives you to do things, it becomes the fear that exists in the real world. Will you be able to overcome the very real challenges that you will be faced with? Because yellow and grey together cause fears in the real world. It causes you to be anxious about what is happening to you. Yellow and blue, of course, as we said back here, is all about creation of the color green. And when we have green as the underlying energy, we find ourselves desiring new pastures. We want to get away from what it is that has caused that fear, anxiety, the clash with reality that is not a very pleasant reality. And in the process, let's try and get away from it, but get away from it in a way that doesn't necessarily create an exacerbation of that fear, anxiety, and the clash with reality that the colors tend to suggest to you in the first place. So how do we do that? Well, let's look at the colors that are missing, because these are the important ones. You don't have any black. There's no white or orange, but we do have red and yellow. There's green and blue. There's no brown, but you do have grey. There's no purple or pink or cyan. So here we have the colours. I'll move them up a bit so you can see them a little bit better. Here we have the colours that are influencing your life's path throughout May. And as we can see here, red, green, yellow, and blue are the basic colours that we all learn as children to be the primaries in our lives. In fact, green isn't actually a primary colour, but that's not necessarily the case for children when they learn to differentiate colours. Grey is the only other colour that doesn't belong in that group of 4. However, it's an important one because it tends to either lighten or darken any of these. And when it lightens it, it makes it a little more difficult to deal with because you're stuck with reality. When it darkens any of these colors, it tends to allow you to retreat and take time out to recover from the effects of those colors in your life. On the other hand, these colors here, the black, white, brown, purple, pink, orange, and cyan, are all the colors that you're currently not dealing with. And when we look at these colors, we can see that they control within them a lot of the messages that we found in here. So again, as with every other month we've dealt with so far, choose from those 7 colors the one that is most appealing and then the one that is least appealing, and put them into your life somehow. Because when you do so, you'll find that the use of those 2 colors will help you to navigate your way through the month, not so much from the beginning because it takes a little time for them to have an effect, but by the middle of the month you should find that you are overcoming this highly anxious, stressful state that is created with the yellow and red together and the yellow and grey together, and it will lead you to a state where in the real world you find yourself, instead of being fearful, becoming a great deal more alert to the dangers, and so therefore are able to overcome them or evade them, which of course is what it's all about. So, are you prepared to do that for this month? Let's now look at people born in the month of March and see how their May 2025 will proceed. As you enter into May, the energies are purple on green. For the major part of May, it's cyan on purple, and then you will leave May with green on pink, and the underlying energy is brown on grey. So what do we have here? Well, the first thing we notice is that there are 2 colours that are repeated. The first is purple, which appears as the energy in the real world. That is what you're actually doing as you enter May. And then later on, it becomes a need, a drive, a motivation for the major part of the month. Then we have green, which is the motivator at the beginning of the month, which by the end of the month now becomes the thing that you are actually doing. So what does this mean? Well, as you come into the month, green as the motivator is a desire for change, a desire for something new, a desire to make a difference by doing something that gets you away from the things that you are doing in the here and now. And what are those things that you're doing in the near and now? Well, basically, you're dealing with dramatic alterations to your life. Purple has to do with power. It has to do with the sorts of issues that involve great disruption in your life. And when we have green and purple together, it means that the desire for change has often led to a major disruption. Now, that disruption may be as simple as changing the furniture in your house around a little bit so it looks different. It may be a change of job. It may be a change of partnership or relationship. It may even mean moving yourself into a different direction by changing the way that you think about yourself and your circumstances. All of that is embodied in this purple on green. And it's not always a comfortable situation to be in, because the drive to get away from things that have been disturbing you and the possibility of actually doing it in a very dramatic and highly visible way can indeed create a great deal of discomfort, disturbance within you mentally. How it leads into the middle of the month is that disturbance, all of those great disruptions that come with you into the month of May, now become a need, a drive, a motivator. You need to fix the things that were broken back here. You wanted change, you got it. You're not sure that it's the sort of change you actually desired, but now that you've got it, now you need to fix it. Purple in the internal world is always a need for healing in some way. Now, that could be physical healing. Maybe you did yourself some physical damage back here. It could be psychological healing. Maybe you've created so much drama and crisis back here that you really don't need to have any more. So now you need to fix it. But purple internally is always a seeker after some sort of spiritual enlightenment. You want things to get better for yourself. You want to heal yourself. And in the real world, what has happened is that you've given yourself that time. Cyan in the real world has to do with bliss, with comfort, with everything being in its place, with no changes needing to be made. It is total, absolute perfection in your life. So the changes that you made back here that may or may not have been very disruptive and very upsetting, now through your need to fix things, your need to feel better about what's going on has actually led to a situation in which you do in fact feel calm and in control, and everything in your life seems to have settled down. But as you know, nothing ever stays that way. So we find that the purple then begins to degrade. All of the blue parts of the purple disappear and it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter, and you find yourself instead with green on pink. Now, pink is vulnerability. Pink is all about a need for people to just simply help me out. I can't do things for myself. I'm no longer the strong person I was back here when I was desiring something. And by the way, green and pink, although not necessarily exactly opposites in the color wheel, certainly have a great deal of similarity to those opposites. In reality, it's green and red that are considered opposites. Pink is a lightened form of red. So again, we have here a situation where the interior drive in the future as you leave May is one of I can't, I need help. It started off with I just need a change. I want to do something different. I want to get away from what I'm dealing with right now. Pink doesn't allow you to get away. You are stuck. And in the real world, opportunities, however, will be there for you. Now, one of the interesting features of this green on pink is that in the tarot, that particular combination stands for the world. You've been here before. This is the ending of a particular cycle. So by the end of May, whatever the cycle was that led you to that ending has now well and truly arrived. And it's time to start off in a new direction with the next section of your life. The underlying energy which has led you to that situation is brown on grey. Grey itself in the internal world is one of confusion. It's a need for understanding. I want things to be made clear. It's also a need for retreat from that clarity. Grey consists of both black and white, and because of that, the black part of the grey is the desire to move into a space that enables you to get away from that confusion. The white part of the grey is that space that causes you to move forward into that confusion. So it's sort of like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's very difficult to deal with that underlying grey. In the real world, however, you have a lot of plans and schemes and practical skills and ambitions that you need fulfilled. And so that underlying energy, when we attach it to what it is that you're bringing into the month, green and grey are very close to a change, an abrupt and complete and utter change in your life. There is something about green and grey that forces you into dealing with the complete and utter end of something sudden and not necessarily desired end that you now need to deal with. It's different to this world idea here in the green and pink. But grey is also one of those colours that enables you to incorporate every other colour, because we can add any other colour to grey and it alters the grey just that little bit. The brown and purple together is abrupt and sudden change associated with goals and drives and motivations and the practical skills necessary to lead on from the desire to get away from things. So not only do you have this desire and the opportunity for those massive changes, but you've also got the skills to deal with them. By the middle of the month, the grey now attaches to purple. So here we have a situation where you find yourself once again in a cyclic circumstance. Grey and purple together are associated with addiction, with doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like you can't get away from stuff. But on the other hand, because you've got cyan, things that are peaceful and quiet and really quite sublime in their own way, attach that to brown and you end up with goals and ambitions for the sorts of endings to the things that you are doing that will enable you to feel really quite comfortable about your particular tasks in life, about your aims, your ambitions, your goals, and the things that you have achieved and accomplished. By the end of the month, the brown on grey influence this world change, this green and pink, so that grey and pink, by darkening down the pink, means that while you are still vulnerable, while you still need assistance to move on to the next phase of your life, because what energy there is left is now very much diminished, there's not a lot of red left in pink to start off with, add grey and it virtually eliminates it altogether. Nevertheless, that extinguishing of the energy that allows you to cling to the old life now becomes green and brown together, which enables you to learn something new, head off in a new direction, acquire the skills that are necessary for you to achieve the things that you want to achieve by grabbing onto every opportunity that comes your way. So how do we facilitate this? Well, let's examine the colours that are missing. There's no black, there's no white, there's no red, there is no yellow. You do have green, you don't have blue, you do have brown, you don't have orange, you do have grey, you have purple, you have pink, and you have cyan. So these 6 colours here, brown, green, grey, purple, pink, and cyan, are the colours of the skills and attributes and needs and drives that fire up your May for you. And they lead you along this path towards an absolute ending that leads on to a new life. What is missing, black, white, red, yellow, blue, and orange, are the skills and attributes that you're currently not using. So the idea here, of course, as usual, is to choose from among those the one colour that is most appealing and then the one colour that is least appealing. And when you do so, add those into your life and you'll find that this new life that beckons, this change from the old you into a new you, will be much easier, much more pleasant, and probably will lead you in a direction that you wanted in the first place, because this drive for a change in values, a change in lifestyle, through the action of creating chaos and destruction of the old, will lead you to a new life that enables you to see the world through new and loving eyes and grabbing the opportunities that are available to you, because those opportunities are endless. So really, it's up to you. And there we have it. Another set of readings that will follow you and your birth month through the month of May. I certainly hope that you found something in these readings that is of benefit to you, and perhaps it might make you think a little bit more deeply as to how we can tell things about our futures without necessarily being aware of what the specifics are in each case. Certainly, for the rest of May, I hope that you have a wonderful time, that the colours in your life bring you many blessings. Until next time, bye.